Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to present to you what we call a lazy composition for Hydra boss. And those of you who have seen my videos in the past, I did put out another video that was called also the lazy composition, but it was for a full auto on Nightmare Hydra boss. But this one we're going to show you today is going to be for brutal full auto on Hydra boss. So one thing I do want to point out to you is when you are normally running a full auto Hydra boss team, it's going to require you to have specific champions, even a specific stats or at least certain stats, but it's more like that for the, I guess, Nightmare Hydra boss because that's the hardest difficulty. But when it pertains to the brutal Hydra boss, there's a lot more wiggle room as far as the stats you can lower completely, and also the champions you can, there's a lot of interchangeable stuff you can do. But for the composition I'm showcasing today, I want to give a huge shout out to Shinny, my clanmate and friend, who pretty much just came up with this composition himself, and it was really successful for him. And even MagChan also put out a video on it, but mine's a little bit similar, but it's going to be a little bit of a different twist, a little bit. So in addition, I guess you could say, just to test out something. But yeah, huge shout out to Shinny. Thank you so much for providing this composition for us to try out. And he wanted me to showcase it, even though I guess technically MagChan also showcased this version of it, but he just wanted to make sure it got out to as many people out there because Shinny is basically I guess at this point he is considered a low spender over the time he spent on the game, and I guess like how long he's been playing or whatever. But it's just like a composition that everybody else could make at some point, right? But here it is, guys. The composition is going to consist of Shamrock. Starting with Shamrock, we have him in Swift Parry, so this isn't really necessary, as I guess it just helps to get that specific speed if you have whatever gear you have, right? But having that chance to not die is also really nice too, right? But it's just like a nice failsafe if anything goes wrong. But yeah, I mean, as long as you the speed is pretty much something you do want to try to focus on. 300 speed is around what he had it as well, so I try to just match what he had to get there. So I'm not really sure what the wiggle room here is as far as like what the how much lower you can go, but obviously the faster you can go, the better, right? But yeah, the resistance, you don't need this much resistance in brutal Hydra boss. For accuracy, so here's a really good thing about accuracy in brutal Hydra boss. So Shamrock, what he brings to the table is a 70 accuracy lead aura. So if you put him in the lead spot, that'll basically give you a huge boost of accuracy. So technically on all my champions here, I can go at 210 accuracy, and that'll pretty much put me at 280 accuracy for brutal Hydra boss, which is basically enough to land my debuffs. And I wanted to make sure he was healthy enough with a decent amount of HP, decent amount of defense, and that's pretty much it. I didn't really focus on crit damage or anything like that, or a crit rate rather. I do have him fully booked out to make sure I can rotate to the abilities fast enough, and we want to make sure we can land a lot of these debuffs as well, right? Particularly this right here. And also, yeah, I do have him masteried in up to War Master, down to War Master. And all the champions are pretty much masteried very similarly, but yeah, depending on what champion we're running here, it might be slightly different in the support side, but for the offense side, for the most part, is similar like this. So Ugo we have in regeneration set, and regeneration set with 287 speed, which is pretty fast, right? Accuracy, again, 210 accuracy, that's just fine. HP, we have pretty healthy here. Defense is really healthy. The more healthy you can make her, the better. But yeah, and for the skills, I do have her fully booked out, and Ugo is going to be providing AoE defense down, occasional heals, cleanse, and the biggest thing here also is the block buffs, which is really huge when it comes to Hydra boss. That's what makes Ugo so special here. And she also provides the leech. And for the mastery here, we went with all the way down to War Master. And if I can get awakening on all these champions, I would, right? And if I were to get awakening on them, I would try to make sure one of them has cruelty, right? And then the other ones, I'd probably go with Phantom Touch, if anything. But if it's a legendary champion, I would 100% go with Brimstone, maybe even two legendary champions if you have enough awakened champions to get more Brimstones on there consistently, right? So that's something I would do, but we don't have awakening on everybody. And onto the next champion here is going to be Molly. So Molly is also in she's also in regeneration set, and she's very similar to Ugo, trying to get her as healthy as I can. Not as much defense, but this is what works. 320 accuracy, which is a bit overkill, right? 210 is pretty much what I need. And for the skills here, we have her fully booked out. And you don't actually have to have this champion fully booked out too, because like again, if you're trying to go for brutal that max chest, 30 mil, around 30 mil is all you need, right? But for this showcase, for this composition, it pretty much goes, it can go anywhere from like 40 mil to like 60, 70 mil even, depending on what champions you have running in the composition. But what I'm saying is, like, even if she's not booked, I would still hit that 30 mil like no problem easily. Just to show you as an example. But we have her going down to the War Master as well. And I do want to show you something real quick as well a bit later, but Shinny also had most of these champions very undergeared, not even glyphed at all, and it was basically just bare minimum, but he was able to hit like 35, 40 mil very consistently, and the highest he actually got to was 50 mil, but alright, I'll talk about that a little bit later. So Kantra, we have her in Relentless set, and she is also very similarly healthy, like around 60,000 HP for most of the champions we have here, but she does have the most defense, 4,500, more than enough accuracy. Once again, we do have her fully booked as well, and she's going to be providing a lot of debuffs. As you can see here, she's going to be providing a lot of that, so really huge as well. And also for the masteries, again, War Master. And for the next champion here we have is Ninja. So Ninja is, it can't be replaced by like Acrisia if you have that. An AoE HP burn champion is nice. That would be really good. Yeah. So so Ninja is in Relentless set with 65,000 HP, and this is actually the one that I run for my Griffin team. I didn't really change much about them. I just kind of left them the way it was. Actually, I think the resistance I did have a bit higher, but I dropped that to gain more HP. I think that's what it was. But we have him at 245 speed, just enough accuracy, more than enough resistance. We don't really need that much once again. And yeah, and I do have him fully booked out as well. He provides a lot of HP burns, which is really good against Hydra boss. And for him, I also have him going down to War Master. And I think this is fine. Yeah, I think it's fine. And okay, so the last champion here. Now this is the one thing that I want to share with you guys, that's you can swap this out with something else, and a lot of these other champions too. For example, if you see the I guess if you see the Fearhead at the beginning, then perhaps the Shamel is a lot better to change out, maybe for Unugo or something like that, or someone else. But yeah, the biggest trouble that we have for the Hydra boss is always going to be the Fearhead, right? And that's the only issue. But other than that, it's really easy, right? But even so, even if we do have the Fearhead, we still pretty much just stomp over it. It's not a big deal. It's just, it can cause you a little bit of trouble is what I'm saying. But yeah, so the last champion I did want to say though is Shinny normally did run a Royal Guard, and it works perfectly fine. It's great. It's really good. But with that, he was able to hit anywhere between like 40 to 50 mil. And I wanted to spice things up because I recently pulled a Acrisia, as you can see here, and I just wanted to try her out there and see what could happen. And it's insane, guys. It's not even fair. She is just so good. Like for Hydra boss, she's like a Royal Guard and Husk on crack. Like literally, she puts out like 40 mil damage by herself easy, like in her sleep. It's so crazy. But yeah, that's the twist I kind of changed up on my composition here. I did have a Royal Guard built as well for this, but I wanted to just try it out with the Acrisia and then showcase that for you guys. But I am going to show you screenshots a little bit later, or I guess right now too, that there are you know, you can hit that 30+ million very easily with the Royal Guard with the same setup. And yeah, but this is going to be a showcase for this. So for the stats here we have is 220 speed, 281% crit damage. She's crit capped, 200 accuracy, which is not that big of a deal. If I can get 10 more, I would, so I can I guess try to land more of the debuffs to the defense down on her A1. 41,000 HP. She actually comes with a decent amount of HP because she is a dwarf champion and they're pretty thick, right? Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I really try to focus on. The attack is 4,400. I have the blessing on her, of course, but I had the luxury of pulling the blessing on her before I pulled her actually. And yeah, I did end up putting cruelty on her. I did test out I guess brimstone on my Ninja and my Acrisia, but it wasn't as consistent because the cruelty does help me do more damage with everyone else, because it's like putting a defense down on somebody and everybody else gets a benefit off of it. Whereas the brimstone, I mean, I'm only going to be able to land one at a time, but they can go on a rotation where it lands more consistently, right? But I found that by testing, like I guess once I unlock another champion here with cruelty, then I can put a brimstone on someone and have 2 brimstones going instead. But you can only activate one at a time. But yeah, so I just opted to use cruelty on her instead, and that was a lot more consistent for me. I was consistently doing an insane amount of damage every single time, but yeah, you're gonna see that a little bit later. But yeah, so for the I did talk about the stats here, and I do have her fully booked. So another thing I do want to mention, before I had her booked, she was doing insane damage, but once I booked her, it was even crazier. So that is something else I will show you a little bit later. For the masteries, once again, War Master, and that's pretty much it. So now I'm going to take you over to the run. So make sure to stay around to the very end to take a look at all the other damages that I did for different compositions. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. So let's get right to it.
A few moments later.